And here is the Writer's Almanac for Sunday. It's the 18th of April, 2021. Anniversary of the San Francisco earthquake of 1906. It struck at 5:12 in the morning, lasted for a little over a minute. Enrico Caruso had performed at the Opera House the night before. He woke up in his bed as the Palace Hotel was falling down around him. Nearly 3,000 people died. It's the anniversary of a famous event commemorated in a famous poem, which begins, "Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in 75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year." It's the birthday of the man who inspired the word beatnik in the 1950s, the poet Bob Kaufman, born New Orleans, 1925, Roman Catholic mother, German Jewish father. Not much is known about his life. He didn't keep a diary, didn't save letters. He wrote 3 volumes of poetry, but he preferred to recite his poems in coffee houses rather than write them down. He spent 20 years in the Merchant Marine, circled the globe 9 times, survived 4 shipwrecks, and it was out at sea when he first read about the beat poets, many of whom also had been seamen. Gary Snyder had, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg. When Kaufman was back on land, he went to New York City. He met William S. Burroughs and Ginsberg. The 3 of them moved to San Francisco, where Kaufman liked to perform poetry, shouting it, improvising spontaneously on the street, for which he was arrested many, many times in 1959. And the columnist Herb Caen, who coined the word beatnik, said that he had Kaufman in mind. Bob Kaufman, who said, "I want to be anonymous. My ambition is to be completely forgotten." It was on this day, 1929, President Herbert Hoover nominated John Monroe Woolsey to the U.S. District Court in New York, who would go on to make several major decisions on freedom of expression, including his ruling that James Joyce's Ulysses was not pornographic. In his decision, he wrote that if the theme of sex seemed to be recurrent in the book, it must be always remembered that the locale was Celtic and the season was spring. It's the birthday of the comedy writer Conan O'Brien, born Brookline, Massachusetts, 1963, started out writing humor pieces for his high school newspaper, went to Harvard, wrote for The Lampoon, then Saturday Night Live, then The Simpsons. And it was on this day in 1924, the first crossword puzzle book was published. Simon & Schuster brought it out. Here's a poem for today by Edith Wharton, entitled Spring Song. The first warm buds that break their covers, the first young twigs that burst in green, the first blade that the sun discovers, starting the loosened earth between. The pale, soft sky, so clear and tender, with little clouds that break and fly. The crocus, earliest pretender to the low breezes passing by. The chirp and twitter of brown builders, a couple in a tree at least, the watchful wisdom of the elders for callow younglings in the nest. The flush of branches with fair blossoms, the deepening of the faint green boughs, as leaf by leaf the crown grows fuller that binds the young spring's rosy brows. New promise every day of sweetness, the next bright dawn is sure to bring, slow breaking into green completeness, fresh rapture of the early spring. A poem from May 1876, Spring Song by Edith Wharton. That's the Writer's Almanac for Sunday, April the 18th, funded by donations from listeners like you, now available on PRX for distribution by your local radio station. Be well, do good work, and keep in touch.